Yes, welcome everyone here to the Smash Sport Show right here on Smash FM here on Lockdown Monday here in Melbourne. Of course, let's go up to Sydney in particular and of course speak to, the team. Of course, that is the Pennant Hills women's football team. And of course, we've got three very special guests from that team. Tell us a bit about how their season went in the shortened 2020 season. They join us now. Thanks all three for joining us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'll get introduce yourselves and obviously what position all three you played on the field this season.
Sure. I'll start then. So I play on the ball in the centre. Yep. And Eleanor is my name. But Ruggy is my, I guess, football name, as most people have one.
I'll go second. I'm Eliza. I play, well, actually, that's a really good question. Where do I play? This season, I've played centre half forward and full forward, but previous seasons, I've been thrown around into the ruck. And if you want a nickname, the nickname's Lizard.
Hi, my name's Steph. My nickname is Stay. This year, I played a mix, depending on what team I was in, either in the back or in the forwards.
Now, before I continue to, ask you about the season, now you all mentioned your nicknames just a moment ago. Where does that all come from?
We have a coach that thinks he's funny. That's one.
So he loves to give nicknames to everyone and anyone in any way or shape that he can, basically.
Even if they're completely irrelevant to their name whatsoever. We have one girl whose last name is Court, so therefore her nickname has to therefore be Tennis, which is, I don't know, on the field it's kind of like, hey, Tennis. No, that doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Yep, I agree with that. Now, let's talk a bit about the season. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago, but firstly, were either of you optimistic that you were going to get a season at all at the start of the year?
I thought in March we probably wouldn't get much of a season, or it maybe would be more of a kind of informal, like social arrangement. But then I think for New South Wales, it got pretty under control, I guess, quickly. So then I think everyone got a bit more positive. But about 2 weeks into it, when we started getting some more cases, I think everyone sort of expected it to be shut down then. But it didn't, and New South Wales has been lucky enough to keep it under control. So
short season. How do you think you went during this short season? And if it went for another round, got a chance to play against everyone else like a normal season. I guess, do you think you would make the finals?
I reckon so I play in the second division team, our Pennant's second team. And for us, we turned up to play in the second and third games at the end of the season. So I reckon if we had a whole other eight rounds, we would have made finals. The first 6 games, we'll call them our learning games. And then the final 3 is like, we wanted to win. We wanted to fight. We wanted to play. And it was finally the camaraderie of the team. It showed up. Everyone showed up, and then it ended. That was it. So that was disappointing, but yeah, another 8 rounds we would have for sure been there.
Yeah, I think we probably would have been similar as well. It was our first year we got promoted into the Prem's league this year. So we didn't recruit any really new players. So we were just playing with the same girls we had for the last 5 years. And I think we improved hugely from first round. And I think if we had another nine games to go, we would have probably seen us beat some of those teams we only just lost to in the first round.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Eleanor, you just mentioned before about obviously first year in Premier Division. And I think when I looked at it, I think you were sitting around middle of the table by the end of the year. I guess considering it's the first year, I know obviously the season's different because of COVID, but are you reasonably happy the way the team went through this year, considering it's a pretty tough division?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got 4 women's teams, and effectively all of our women's teams got promoted this year because the Prem's team, the Div 1 got promoted up to Div 1 up to Prem. So I think the entire women's program had a tougher year, but it was due to that exciting kind of movement in the club. I think we did a lot better than we were expecting, and that goes to the fact that as a group, you know, none of us have been playing AFL since we were young, like a lot of the other players have nowadays, but we've all been playing together for 5 years. We all love playing footy with each other, and we love playing for Pennant. And I think that really comes out on the field. Like, we might not necessarily be the most skillful team, but we know each other better than anyone else, and we always have each other's back. And in certain games, that really came out to help us win. Or, you know, there are games where we've made other teams work really, really hard to try and beat us, and, you know, only by a couple of points. So I think that really showed and got us really excited for what we can do next year with another normal preseason under our belt.
And I think adding to that as well, like, we were underestimated as a club. So Prems went up and the teams actually had to really work hard to beat them. Yeah, we lost, but it was a fight, and it was a fight to the end. So I think it's pretty commendable for our club to be able to talk, for all of us to go up a division and to play like we did. It's pretty great.
Of course, I have to ask, tell us a bit about your coaches.
We've got a large group of, I guess, coaching staff that support us. We've got a gentleman by Mark Carroll, so he's the kind of the head of women's football, and he kind of oversees everything, but took on the head coaching role for Div 3 this year. The Prem's coach is a guy named Fids, or Daniel, as no one knows him by, and he's been the coach of the top tier women since day one. So it's really exciting to have him kind of sticking with us all these years. And we've got a fair few. We've got kind of line coaches this year. So we've got Az, Terry, and Trent, who have all come and kind of migrated from the men's side of the world to come and support the women's because we're just more fun. Eliza, off to Div 1 to you.
Div 1 actually has a new coach this year, and he's moved up from Melbourne. So he's a huge Tigers fan and brings with him that competitive side and a bit of sass, which some of the girls respond well to, some might not. But he's been really good this year of just shaking things up a little bit, bringing new drills and just a whole new intensity, which has been really good. Yeah.
And then we've got Women's Division 2. It's coached by Nick DeGort. So he's one of our men's players. He coached Women's Division 2 last year and took it on again. And yeah, he's got a lot of experience, a lot of skills, which he brings to our team. And then, as mentioned before, we've got Mark Carroll, who coaches Women's Division 3.
Tell us a couple of players in your team that had an outstanding year, and you can't include yourselves.
I think for the Prem side, I'd have to say our ruck, a chick by the name of Maddie Hare. So she's an absolute machine. Not only does she never come off the field playing ruck, but she also, after every game, also then goes and plays basketball. So also normally plays 2 games.
2 games of basketball as well, not just one.
Yeah.
2.
So I don't know. I can really walk after 1 game of footy, let alone going and playing 2 games of basketball. So you can't ever tell that she's tired, and she's just an absolute, just competitive girl, and just such a positive force to have around on the ball.
Yeah. In my team, there was this one girl I was kind of watching throughout the season. She's quite quiet, doesn't make a name for herself or anything like that, but you can tell that she just wants to play, she wants to improve, and throughout the season, that's all she did. And Gabby from my team, she ended up having a blinder in the last 2 games, and I walked off the field and I was like, Gabby, I'm actually so proud of you, because beginning of the season, you showed up to training, you were that quiet little mouse, and you weren't getting much of the ball and less attention from the coaches type thing. And I was like, you need to start speaking up more and like asking for more help. And she did that, and it showed on the field by the end of the season. And I think she was just fantastic by the end. I'm pretty proud of her.
I agree. She's awesome.
Yeah. And she's just one of those humble, nice players that wouldn't cause any drama or anything like on the field. So yeah, she'd be my vote.
We had in the lower grades, we had a lot of new players starting this year, which was really good to see. And I think there was a few like really good new players in that mix, but I think a standout for me was Natalie Pager. She's come to training, very quiet, just come to training. She She actually doesn't even live in our area. She comes from Bankstown to play for us. So she just turned up this year to have a go. And yeah, she's actually phenomenal on the football field. She played through the middle. She wasn't afraid to get around the ball, get down, could take a hit. And yeah, she was just so much natural talent, just took to it like a duck to water.
Now, I know that I think, of course, New South Wales had its AFL Combined last week. Is any of your teammates went to that, and is there a couple that we should watch out for?
I think most of us are too old, to be honest. I think most of us in the Prems and Div 1, with the exception of a handful, we all started playing 5 years ago for the first time when we were probably in our early 20s. And as much, we all love footy, but I think we love the social side of it more. I think in the next couple of years, we're probably going to have some really great players coming through our under-18s framework, which is through the Pennant Hills and Westbrook Juniors. We've got a couple of those girls that already are training with us, and a girl named Maddie Fleming played a fair few games in Div 1 this year for us. So I think it's more likely in the coming years to get some players through that. As much as I think some of us wish we started playing footy, 10 years ago, I think we have jobs now. We're too old. My body
too old. Ruggy's a little heartbroken.
I am. If only I was 12 years younger.
Now, great segue to my next question, which is, how did all three get involved in footy, and why did you choose it?
I'll go first if you both don't mind. Mine was a dare, to be honest. Back in, when was it? Probably September 2017. I went to a Swans game at the SCG with a girlfriend of mine and two friends, and we were in the front row of the general section. Of course, it's the only place that you sit at the SCG. And my friend's boyfriend said to her, he was like, "There's no way in hell that you could play this game." And she was like, "Are you serious? Like, obviously I can hit people and like catch a ball, kick a ball. How hard could it be?" And he was like, "All right, next season you're playing footy." And she turns to me, she's like, "Eliza, we're playing football next season." And I was like, "Oh, okay, what about netball? Like, we play netball." And she's like, "Screw netball, we're playing AFL." I was like, "All right, fine." So happens that one of my uni friends was with me at the time, and he's like, "Well, I play for Pennant Hills." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't know anyone around my area that plays footy, so we'll join Pennant Hills." January comes around, pre-season starts, we're like, "No, this is all right." March comes around, first trial game, here we are. And 3 years later, still playing for Pennant Hills. I live about a 45-minute drive away from Pennant Hills, so I could easily join the club in my area, but
never would.
Yeah, no, can't leave it now. That's my story.
Steph, you can go.
Okay. So when I was in uni at UNSW a long time ago, I was looking to play, I played netball previously, so I was looking to try another team sport. I saw an ad for UNSW Stingrays that were looking for players with no experience necessary. So I turned up to training one night down at Village Green and gave it a go, and then played 4 seasons there. And then when Pennant Hills started their women's team, I moved over to start playing with Penno, because it was I'm from the hills, so it was a lot closer, and I've been here ever since.
Yeah, well, I used to play soccer at a Premier League level, and I think the year prior to that, I guess retired from playing soccer at that level, but I really still wanted to play sport quite competitively, and thought I'd try something new. So one of my mates played for another AFL team, which was in the city. I wasn't going to go play there, and saw that she actually saw the ad that Pennant Hills was creating a brand new team, and suggested I go down and have a try. So I went down and had a try, and 5 years later, so I think I started the same year as Steph, and we're 5 years later and we're all still here, and there's still, I think, maybe 10 or 12 of us who've hung around from the very first year, considering we only had 12 players finish the year. So it's a pretty good testament to the club itself.
Steph, I have to ask you this question. Now, obviously, you came from a different club who still plays in the Prem division at the moment. How difficult was it originally to play against them?
So I don't play Premier Division anymore, so I've never had to really play against them. Obviously the competition was, when I played, was a lot different, a lot less teams, only 1 or 2 divisions. I think, and then over time, UNSW have really developed their Premier Division into a really good side. We've won a couple of grand finals. I thought we've done well against their lower grade side when we were first emerging as a women's group in our lower divisions a couple of years ago. And I think we try to be as competitive as we can when we try and play against them. I don't know if Fraggy has any more insights. She's played against Bulldogs and Prems.
Oh, I guess it's easy for me, but I didn't play for another club, so I don't care who we beat as long as we beat them.
Yeah. I know for me, like I live near Manly and there's a club in Manly, obviously. So when they show up at Greenway Park to play us, and I know a few people in the team, I'm like, okay, well, I will beat you. So that's the attitude that I rock up with, is like, I'm not going to let these people, just because I know them, doesn't mean I'm going to be your friend. It means I'm going to hit you harder. And yeah, that's for me.
I have to ask, what will be some footy highlights?
I feel like something that happens every year in at least every team is someone kicks the ball in the wrong direction from a centre bounce. So that's probably one of my favourite things. At least once a year it happens, and it's just such a wonderful thing to see. Just hilarious. Probably one of my favourite.
I think for me, like, girls are really confident sometimes when it comes to bouncing the ball, and it's not a natural skill of ours, especially in AFL ball. They bounce it once and it's like, wow, amazing, free field, go, run. And then we're like, okay, now she has to kick it, because don't bounce it again. And they go for the second bounce and it never works out. But like, no one's mad about it. You just play on, and
I would never try and bounce the ball, that's for sure.
yeah. Well, I can't help but laugh.
Now, what does the sport of football mean to all 3 of you, and especially playing there at Pennant Hills?
I think it's been a really good place to build a lot of friendships. I think when you get a bit older, it's often hard to make new friends, outside of your existing friendship circle. So it's really nice to meet a lot of nice new people. You've got similar interests. I know now a lot of my best mates I've met through footy. I met my partner through footy. So the club means a lot to me in particular. And I think the club itself has been really, really great to the women's program, and as well as the club in general. So it's a fun place to be. I know we've got the new clubhouses due to be kind of on the ground in the next 6 weeks, and the club's really looking forward to making that kind of a bit of a sanctuary for us as a club as well. So I'm really looking forward to, I guess, the next version of Pennant. But I mean, Steph, you might have more updates on the clubhouse, who you know about them as well. I'm not sure.
About as much as you do.
I guess for me, like, there's this quote where it says, you can't be what you can't see. And growing up, like, women never played football. And coming from a family where I had 2 other sisters, my dad always trained me to watch football, to watch cricket, to watch all those stereotypical masculine sports. But there was never a women's side. So I think when my friend did dare us to play football, I was like, okay, well, we can take this opportunity to play, and Pennant Hills is that place to do it. And now 3 years on, they've got 4 teams of women's. Some weeks you have to ask people to sit out because there's too many girls. And I think the fact that they can build that culture of inclusivity is just fantastic. And like, I'm not going to go and join Manly because Pennant's where it's at.
Yeah, I think to touch on what Ruggie and Eliza already said, the culture makes such a difference. Otherwise people would just go to the gym, play another sport, do any other activity, but it's the club culture that really drags you in and makes you stay there and make you want to come back each week and train and play footy and socialise as a group. And I've also been lucky in the fact that I've met my partner through the club as well, and he's also now playing footy again So it's really good. You build those relationships, and then there's so much linkages through the club, and it just gets bigger and bigger each year.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, you all mentioned what position you played at in the start of this interview. The question I'm going to ask is, if you had a preferred position where you like to convince your coaches to put you, where would that be?
Rugby wants to play ruck.
I always want to play ruck, but I'm not tall. Like, I'm just normal height, like average height. So I'd be awful at it, but I just like the idea of it. But I get told no very strongly every time I request it.
I do like my centre half forward, but I personally need to work on my fitness to be as good as I can be, which is my problem, which is also probably why my coach then sticks me in full forward, because I just get tired very quickly.
I'd love to be fit enough in the mids, but I really want to just try and focus on being a strong backline player.
Now, what would be your advice to our listeners and viewers out there that should get involved at Pennant Hills, especially for the upcoming 2021 season? I'm assuming pre-season starting reasonably soon?
Yes.
This Thursday. For me, at least.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get into it. I know that a few of the girls are doing kind of some running programs as well already. I think because we've still, this weekend coming will be the grand final for a few of the age groups still. So I think we'll probably kick off kind of closer to November this year compared to last year. But I think, when it comes to the women's program, we got 4 teams. No matter what your skill set is or your purpose in playing footy is, there's a place for you. Whether you're just there for fun and to learn, which, that's where those Div 3 and Div 2 teams are, or if you're really competitive and you want to push yourselves to get into that AFLW or just be the best and fittest person you ever can be, that's where, you've got that Prem squad to really push for. You'll learn something, you'll make friends, and when COVID lets us, we definitely like to have a good time as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mirror that exact answer.
And whereabouts is your home ground for anyone in Sydney who have no idea where it is?
It is Greenway Park, which is in Cherrybrook. It's also known as Mike Kenny Oval, I think. Is that right?
That is right. It's in the Hills District of Sydney.
Yep, so Cherrybrook. Yep.
I want to ask this question to Eleanor because, of course, she played in the Prem competition. Now, obviously, was it this weekend is the Prem Grand Final?
This weekend, yep.
Yep, between Manly and Inner West. Now, you already played against these 2 teams. Who do you think is going to end up winning it?
That's a tough one. I'd like to see Wests win. I have a friend that plays there, Beck Privatelli, who plays for the Giants as well. And I think if she's on fire, that'll be very hard to stop. When we played her, I think she took about 6 or 7 contested marks, but couldn't score a goal. So if she's on fire, I all help to Manly. And Manly beat us last year in our semis by 1 point, so I don't really want them to win anything at the moment. I'm still too emotional about it. But I don't mind Manly as a team. They're a great bunch of girls, and it's good to see them progress from Div 1 into Prems. But I think Wests have been around a while, know each other really well, and if they're on, I think they'll be really tough to beat.
Now, let's go on to the lighthearted questions about the teammates. Firstly, who had the most embarrassing moment on the field this season, and what was it?
No one really embarrasses themselves, because I think that's one thing that Penno is really good at, is that if someone does embarrass themselves, it's just funny, and it becomes like a part of them, and it's like, oh well, good job, you tried, move on. No one, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like the funniest thing is just when people kick the ball the wrong way. But I think we just love that because it's just so hilarious.
Yeah.
Forgetting their boots. Coops, one of the girls in Prem's, Coops, always forgets her boots. I just don't understand. I'm like, they're really the only thing you need to play. How can you forget your boots every week?
Fantastic question. Now, I'm starting to notice this pattern across every single interstate AFL team, I've just noticed, across the local competitions, which is Who's the most forgetful player on your team?
Coops for us. Coops Coops and Ali Bruce in the Prem's team. What about you guys?
I'm going to say a girl named Amanda, who has her own personal friend who brings her bag. He brings her bag for her. And whenever she's forgotten her jumper or forgotten her shoes or something like that, it's always Sam's fault. Sam, where's this? I'm like, Amanda, why don't you just bring it yourself? But no, it's definitely, it has to be Sam's fault. So yeah, she'd be the forgetful one because she's just relying on someone else to be her brain.
I don't know, to be honest. I should pay attention more. I do know that there's always a handful of girls that each week that when you're trying to work out who's available to play, there'll always be a handful that never say anything. And then they'll turn up at the last minute, oh no, I can play, or they're then left out of the team and you've got to try and scramble to fit them in somehow.
Now, who's the comedian in your teams?
We have a few. There's two that when you put them together, they think they're the comedians of the world. There's a girl named Amy and a girl named Jenna, who they like to go out on like a Tuesday night together and get tattoos on the inside of their lips of D's. So that's their commitment to the club. But Jenna actually, she fooled me, that's for one. It was 1 a.m. in the morning. She's like, do you like my new tattoo? And it was of a Corona bottle on the side of her hip. And I was like, oh, kind of looks like a cricket bat. Like, I really hope that's not real. So for about a week, I was like, oh my God, this girl just got this tattoo of a Corona bottle. Like, Amy got one of the D's on her lips. Like, what's going on? Turns out Jenna's was fake, Amy's was real, but they thought it was hilarious and I just felt like an absolute idiot.
I didn't know Jenna's was fake. Eliza, you got to update me on these things.
Sorry, yeah, Jenna's is definitely
real.
It was just the outline. So she didn't get a cricket bat or a bottle.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I back them in. They're definitely some of the funniest players we've got.
Yeah. And Amanda as well. So
yeah, Amanda.
Amanda for sure. So the girl that relies on Sam to bring her things is notorious for going out the night before. And if she doesn't go out the night before, she typically doesn't play very well. So she shows up to a game about an hour beforehand, typically hungover, and plays like she's on fire. It's great, but I think that's the hilarious side, that if she doesn't go out, she's horrible in the field. When I say horrible, she's not as good as she can be. It's really mean of me.
Now we'll finish off with this last two, which is who is the best dancer and singer in the team that we should know about?
Best dancer is Ellie Jones for sure. So she was our captain for I guess the first few seasons, and she's pregnant with her first child. But her at any Pennant event is just something to behold. It's a marvelous thing to witness. Every year for her birthday, Fids, our coach, likes to bring up a video of her dancing a few years ago. So
he himself doesn't think he's too bad of a dancer either. So he's notorious for having a few drinks and wanting to be onto that dance floor.
Now we'll finish off with a two-part question. The first one is, now I know with footy clubs there is a fine system that goes towards a footy trip. Now, did your team do any fine systems? And if so, who copped the most fines?
We haven't done it in a couple of years. We did do it in the previous years. We did never actually collect money off people. We just did more of it as a way to get to know each other and take the mickey of each other.
On a really intimate level.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel like Telly probably lost a few of those fines. She was always an easy target. And as well as Fids, everyone liked to take the mickey out of Fids as our coach too. I'm not sure, Steph or Elijah, if you guys remember from the years previous as well.
That's his own fault though. He brings it on himself. So when you have 100 girls, obviously they're going to target him. It's easy. Okay. I think they took away our fine system though, didn't they? Because we got too brutal.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
We all got in trouble.
we went a bit too far.
So maybe we'll bring fines back in 2021.
With
Yeah.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do either of you have a pre-game superstition or ritual?
I've got to have a specific breakfast.
Me too.
And that's probably it. We had this year we had a game that was played. So normally the Prem team we played 11:30, but we played an away game and we played it at like 4:30, and I was just off all day. I was like, I don't know when to eat, when to sleep, when to do what. So yeah, I need the 11:30 game and the breakfast. Like I can't do anything else.
I'm the exact same as Ruggy, where like I have to have the same breakfast. Normally I have like eggs on toast, that sort of thing, but on a Saturday morning, has to be cereal. Can't be anything else. I have to have my cereal. And then if the game's the same sort of thing, if it's at 4:30, I don't know if I should have lunch or not because it'll just throw me off. Then I'm like, then I'm tired for my game, and then I get in trouble for not having eaten, and it's all a bit silly. But as well as that, I always have to have my hair in 2 braids and a bun at the back. And I'm somewhat renowned for it, but I can't wear it in a ponytail because there's too much hair flying everywhere. There'll be wispy bits. Like, has to be 2 tight braids and a bun. No questions asked.
I always have to have a coffee, and I always have to wear the same sports bra each game.
Actually, yeah, I'm the same.
Superstition or anything, it's just the most supportive one.
Mine's actually the other way around. I have to wear the same underwear. I can't wear, I don't care about the sports bra, it has to be the same underwear.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's called the Saturday underwear. Now everyone knows that.
Oh, well, all three, thank you so much for getting up your time to join us. It's awesome having all three on the show. I'm overdue to go to Sydney, so I hope I'll be back up in Sydney next year, and hope I'll get to watch your team in action next winter in 2021. Hopefully we get to see all your teams back in the finals in 2021.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
No worries. And that's, of course, the Pennant Hills women's football team there. Of course, make sure you get out there. Of course, most beautiful part of Sydney up there in the hills. So make sure you get down there and of course, have a go in the sport of footy up there in the hills at Pennant Hills in 2021. There's more on the Smashboard right after this. Don't go away. Here on Lockdown Monday.